Hello and welcome back to Messages from Mars, hosted by Zozimus Agency. We're here with episode 5, bringing our expertise from our fellow Zozies to your ears. My name is David Wilson, and I'll be your host. In today's episode, we'll be catching up with two members of our social team, Jamie Garrett and Abbie Stark, to talk all things Zozimus. Welcome, Jamie and Abbie. How are you doing this morning?
Hi, David. We're doing great. Thank you for having us.
No problem.
Happy to be here.
Excited to have this conversation. So can you start and let the audience know a little bit about yourself? We'll start with you, Jamie.
Sure. Hello. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jamie Garrett. I've been with Zozimus for a little over a year now. I have over a decade's experience in social media. So I primarily worked in higher ed, but it's great to be here. Thank you.
Good to hear. Abbie?
Awesome. Abbie Stark. I've been with Zozimus for almost 3 years, and I have about 8 years in marketing, social media, a mix of it all. I don't come from one industry vertical. I've worked in a lot of different areas with, entrepreneurs, small businesses, larger businesses as well. I really enjoy the strategy side of social media and helping companies and businesses really understand how they can show up as their true, authentic brand voice online and what tools they can use in order to get there. So really excited to have this conversation today.
Yes, so am I. So social is one of those areas that's probably the fastest changing of any channel. Whether it's TikTok coming in, whether it's just, Reels changing, different things that's going on. So can the two of you talk a little bit about what strategies and content are you finding that's working best on social for clients today? And then conversely, what's not working that maybe used to work?
Jamie, you want to kick things off?
Yeah, sure. What we find works best and it's universally relevant is video. Short form video specifically these days, but video, it's able to convey your brand's code, essential self, authentically. You're using short form video to build rapport, showcase what your brand is all about, and get people and faces in front of constituents, and that really helps build brand authenticity.
I think that's really important, that emphasis on authenticity. I think a lot of our clients and people with social media in general, sometimes they'll lean towards having a really formal or professional brand identity online.
Want to put themselves out there.
Whereas what we see doing very well on social, both from previous clients as well as our clients currently at Zozimus, is when they go really raw, when they have very authentic pieces of content and almost take a step back from having that professional, whether it's like a video shoot or even images, but using UGC and focusing in on like what their audience wants to see. That's when we get big results across all of the different platforms. And I think it's easy to focus on places like TikTok. That seems really intuitive that you would be going authentic and raw. But even on platforms like LinkedIn, I think people are showing more behind the scenes, telling more about their journeys, how they got places, and that's had a real impact on their audiences.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that one of the topics that the three of us discuss, and we've discussed on previous podcasts, is AI. It's just been about a year since GPT 3.5 came out. So sort of how's AI impacted the work that the two of you do?
For me, I feel like AI is kind of like mother's helper. It's definitely a time saver. Now, granted, AI has grown leaps and bounds since its integration and appearance on the scene. So it's definitely gotten better, but it's going to keep getting better. But at its point right now, it is not foolproof and 100% independent. So it still requires that human touch and direction. So whether you're queuing up a query to get content, or you get content, you need to refine it a bit. So it still requires a hands-on approach, which is great for us in job security, frankly, but is definitely a time saver. Content creation, whether it be copy or visuals, it's definitely been impacted, and it's a positive trend for us. So
Yeah, I mean, I think I speak for all of us when I say it's really come in and changed the game. We're probably coming up on about a year of when we started really using AI in our daily lives at the agency. Before, it could be just like an add-on to some of the softwares that we were using, or like a nice to have, or maybe people talked about AI in terms of the algorithms of different social media platforms. But where I think it's been a huge game changer is in the content planning, and then like data analysis, and really pulling huge amounts of data information in and allowing us to distill that down without having to spend hours scrolling through our past posts. We're able to put in, the past year's worth of data and see and ask, what are the trends here? What are potential new viral posts that we could have? Pretty much in every stage of our content development and process, from ideation, we're able to come up with sample content calendars. We're able to take a look at competitor posts and pull insights from those as well. So there's a lot, I think, that you can do with it, especially if you start looking into, let's say, like a hero content strategy, where you have a piece of long form content and you can kind of take that as the bedrock or focus for your week or even for your month, and use that to clip down into email marketing, social media posts, maybe smaller videos to go up on different platforms. Maybe you take a YouTube video, use the transcription to create a blog post. So there's a lot of tools out there now that do really cool things and can free up your time to provide even more value to the client.
Earlier comments, I think it was Abbie's, you're talking about being authentic on social and being able to sort of stand out with, this is the content, this is sort of behind the scenes, look at what we do, this is really what we do. But with AI, it allows companies to produce a lot of content, and now you've got DALL-E 3 that's built into ChatGPT, so now you can create images at scale. So how do companies sort of balance this ability to produce a lot of content, which is sort of somewhat generic, it's not specifically them, versus, what did they do so they can stand out in this AI world?
I think for me, it comes from having a really strong brand identity and strategy in the first place. So when you know who you are as a brand, when you know what your voice is, what your points of differences are with competitors, what your strategic goals are, you can start to filter out all of the extras. And you may realize, an AI image generation tool is not for us, because as a university, for example, we get so much great content coming in from our students and from alums. We don't need that. If someone's in a different industry where that's a lot harder, and maybe they don't have as much access to photos or video shoots, being able to take advantage of those tools becomes a lot more important. I think you need to look at it from a kind of holistic view and say, is my brand standing out? If I use these tools, will I look like everyone else? Am I just taking an image or a blog post or a social media post that was created by AI and reposting that without doing the work to kind of adapt it to my own voice and to my own brand? Or am I going in and applying all of those filters and criteria that I know are so important to my audience, and making sure that it still reads as your true brand voice online?
yeah, just to tag along with those thoughts, to me, AI translates currently to efficiency. That efficiency is still not going to beat the human touch. So for these brands to stay competitive and to stay authentic, and even with the integration of AI, I think having a strong network of assets where you can gather UGC. So either that translates into like an ambassador program or relationships with influencers, that authentic human touch is still conveyed through them. That user experience, testimonials, I think that is going to be more powerful than an efficient, well-designed post created by AI at the end of the day.
Perfect. Couldn't agree more. we spoke at the beginning about how social is always changing. And it's been a really interesting year, right? We've had the Twitter rebrand, we had Threads launch, and I think it's still going, decreased hashtag use. Can we talk about some of the things that maybe you would have done at the start of the year, that as we look going into 2024, because now we're into November, that, you know, don't work anymore, whether that's platforms, whether that's tactics or strategies that sort of used to work 12 months ago, but don't work going into the new year?
I think it's always easy to try to jump on new things or feel the pressure to try new platforms or new updates as they come along. But again, to go back to our earlier discussion about knowing what's right for your brand, I think you have to evaluate social media platforms using that criteria as well. So if we take Threads, as you mentioned, David, for some people, maybe for influencers or for e-commerce brands who maybe don't have as much image or video content, who want to get into more of a written aspect, and they know their audience isn't on a platform like X, maybe Threads was a good place to experiment. I don't think it's making huge progress these days. I don't think it's had a huge impact on a lot of businesses. For us and many of our clients, we recommended not getting into that platform just because we didn't see the value of splitting our resources and essentially kind of preaching and putting all of this content out into an abyss of people who may or may not eventually come in and find our brand on other social channels or go to the website. So I think a lot has happened. I mean, we can definitely discuss the evolution of X and, its rebrand for days. That could be an entirely different podcast. I think you have to look at, again, like, is this a net positive for my brand to be on these platforms? Is it a net negative at the end of the day? And just try to use your best judgment for where your brand is going and the different platforms that can help it get there.
Yeah, agreed. I think that in regard to tactics that we have used in the past that we're currently not integrating in our strategies much these days, I think it would probably be like those really text heavy, basic posts that really don't drive engagement at all. It's just sort of talking at you and not talking with you or inviting you into the conversation per se. I think those posts, they're just very antiquated. They're very clunky. They're not a good use of post space or real estate online, if you will, or time as social media managers and strategists go. It does not behoove us. So I think we're definitely navigating away from that, and falling more into video driven posts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like the infographic carousels on Instagram, that used to be such a huge thing. And it was a great way to get engagement on that platform. I think I still see some people using it, but we've tested that. It does not get the engagement that even like a photo carousel will get on there. So you just, have to look at the numbers. Something that worked last year may not work this year. A lot has changed. And like Jamie said, we're definitely pulling back from really like text heavy graphics and assets like that. Even, at the beginning, I spoke about how important that authenticity and like raw style of content is. And those kind of infographic style posts are the opposite of like raw and having a face on camera or something.
Mm-hmm.
I think you said it, just look at your numbers, right? The numbers don't lie. And I think optimizing, I think that's key. Constantly reviewing your platforms and optimizing for its use. So
I think two things I take away from that is, one, from a social, is to do social media well, you have to have a strategy, and you also have to be numbers driven. And people don't think of social media at that time. They just don't view it. A lot of people don't view it as like this data driven channel. But it sounds like what we find is that when we use data to optimize the content, that's when we see the best results. Is that fair?
Absolutely. Yeah. Both sides of the brain. It's got to be about the numbers and the creative. So
I think it actually makes it even easier and more accessible to people. Like if you think about it, exactly like you said, David, most people don't look at social media as a really strategic or logical, numbers-driven activity for their business. Maybe they're like, okay, I'll jump on when I'm feeling inspired or when I do get new content. But if you think about it, using the data can really help answer all of the questions, and it can help drive that strategy. So even before we get into creating a strategy for clients, we take a look at their historical data, and we can, using the variety of tools that we have at our hands, we can take all of that information and say, what posts do the best for them? Is it videos? Is it photos? Is it text posts? Great, we've solved that. There's no ambiguity here. There's always going to be a little bit of creativity when it comes to maybe trying new ideas or trends, but it really is as simple as picking a strategy, testing that out, and then using that information to inform your future decisions.
Mm-hmm. As the two of you look to 2024, what excites you about social media in the new year?
I think, and I hope for more AI implementation, into all platforms for users. I think that will be a game changer, allowing users to use it to create their posts, which we can then in turn pull as UGC, will be great. They've already started doing that on Instagram. They've got a feature on stories where you can type in a query for an AI generated sticker to adorn your post with. So I think that's pretty neat, and that's an exciting step into the future.
Yeah, I think for sure all of these new tools and how interactive and engaging I think it is and it will get in the future, and how I think it makes it more accessible and open to everyone. I was just on a call with a TikTok advertising rep, and we were talking about how on TikTok, you actually don't need to get super granular in your audience build for paid campaigns. What they recommend is that you just set your geography and maybe simple demographics like your age, gender, that sort of thing. But you don't need to go in there and use keywords or audience behaviors, because the AI and the algorithm on that platform will drive your content to the people that it needs to get to. And I think that opens up a whole world of possibilities for people who maybe thought this is too challenging for me, or I'll never be able to figure this out. And I think that also goes for other platforms. Maybe, TikTok is the most advanced when it comes to algorithm, but even places like Instagram, where we're not really using hashtags anymore, and it's focused more on maybe using the alt text that you put for your photo or your caption. I think social media will get a lot better about predicting what people want to see, and it will be able to filter out a lot of noise, which can be scary, because that means that maybe not as many people will see our content, but I think that the right people will start to see it, and it will probably get a lot more specific and individualized. And I think that's a really cool trend to see going into the next year.
Yeah, I think that as the algorithms get better at getting your message in front of people, as we're talking about, that the key differentiating now becomes creative. How good is your creative? Because if everybody can target a similar group through AI, then who's going to win is who has a creative that resonate best with that audience. And coming back to being authentic and being real, UGC wins. But to me, that's the big battleground for 2024, is who has the best creative.
Right. Since anyone can go into chat and type, make me a caption for XYZ. So
yes.
When you start to get really engaging with your creative, I think that it does make a huge difference for everyone that we're seeing right now.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for joining us today for another episode of Messages from Mars. We'll be bringing new episodes to you every month. So follow us on Instagram at Zozimus Agency and YouTube for the latest episodes and releases. Comment below if any subjects you'd like our Zoz team to cover, and we'll see you at the next one. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.